In our video lesson today, we're going to learn about writing equations and representing solutions. An important skill in algebra is modeling solutions using equations. What modeling means is drawing or making a picture. An equation is a mathematical sentence containing the equal sign. To translate your verbal model, your word problem, that's what a verbal model is, into an equation, look for common words or phrases that indicate different arithmetic operations such as the add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Define, that means you have to tell me what your variable is and what it represents to represent the unknown quantity of the problem. Okay, here's a word problem for you. Fairfield Lane has 6 more bowling lanes than Mason Bowl. Fairfield Lane has 22 bowling lanes. How many bowling lanes does Mason Bowl have? So the first thing you want to make sure you do is you always read the word problem once or twice to get an overview of what's going on. Then we look for our keywords. We know that Fairfield Lane has 6 more. That means plus 6 than Mason Bowl. Fairfield Lane has a total of 22 bowling lanes. How many bowling lanes does Mason Bowl have? So here's our question right here. So first let's put this into words. What do we know? Well, we actually know how many Fairfield Lanes has in bowling lanes. So we're going to write Fairfield. What does it equal? It equals 6 plus whatever Mason Bowl has. So we know that Fairfield Lane has 6 more than Mason Bowl. So this is the way we're going to set up our words. So I need to define my variable. So I'm going to let m equal the number of lanes at Mason Bowl. So let's start using our words and substitute in. We know that whatever Fairfield has is what this is equal to. And we can see right here that Fairfield has 22 bowling lanes. So I'm going to put 22 and then I'm going to put equals. I'm getting this from here, Fairfield, and I'm getting that 22 from here. It equals, and then we don't know what Mason Bowl has, but we have an expression 6 plus m. So I can solve this. 6 plus something will give me 22. I wonder if it's 14. Well, 14 plus 6 will give me 20. So that's not right. What about 15? 15 plus 6 will give me 21. What about 16 plus 6? That will give me 22. So we can say that Mason Bowl has 16 lanes. We can also write that as m equals 16. That means that value of 16, when I put it in place of m, I will get an equation that is equivalent to 22. Here's our second word problem. The temperature dropped by 2 degrees Fahrenheit per hour for the last several hours, for a total temperature change of negative 14 degrees Fahrenheit. For how many hours has the temperature been dropping? That's kind of a wordy one. So let's look at what we have. When it says dropped by 2 degrees, that means it went negative 2. Remember our key words, it went in a down direction. It's not a positive. Per hour means times. That per is going to mean multiplication per each hour for the last several hours. I don't know what this is. This will be my variable. I don't know how long. But I do know that the total When you see total, that's your equal. The total is negative 14 degrees Fahrenheit. So here's our question. For how many hours has the temperature been dropping? All right, so we marked that text all up. So now we're going to take it, clean it up a little bit, and we're going to write our words that we know. We know that it went -2 times, we know that -2 times the number of hours will equal negative 14 degrees. So 2 times the number of hours equals negative 14. So I'm going to let H represent my hours, number of hours the temperature dropped. All right, so let's think of our equation. We know that it dropped each hour. We know that for every hour it dropped, it was -2. And we know that the total that it dropped was a negative 14 degrees. So we have to go back to our integers and we have to think, what times -2 will give me a negative 14? And just in case you don't remember this, if I have positives through here, everything else negative, I can use that. I need to have a negative answer and a negative multiplier. So negative times a negative will give me a positive. That's not going to work. A negative times a positive will give me a negative. That will work. So -2 times, what do we think 2 times what will give me 14? 7. And I know it needs to be positive, will equal a negative 14. So H equals a positive 7. So we can say that the temperature dropped for 7 hours. And of course, we could have a different sentence. We could say that it dropped to -2 for 7 hours, creating a total temperature change of -14. I just kind of don't feel like writing that much today. But let's make sure we box that variable and the answer, and then we also have our sentence. Those are the two things that we do need to be having. All right, this may seem hard, but it's really one of these ones where it's the directions that are hard. It says represent the solution to each equation on a number line. So the solution is the answer we get for the variable. And so all we're going to have to do is graph it. But there is a certain way we do need to go about it. So we can use our guess and check model here. What plus 8 will give me 29? So you can plug in different numbers and try it out, but you'll eventually find out that C is going to equal 21. So I need to graph that. And the way we're going to graph it is you need to anchor with 0. I don't necessarily need this much over here because I know I have a positive answer. And since it's in the 20s, I'm going to divide this by 10s because I think that will just work so much better for me. So here's 10, 20, 30. So the thing I need to do when I mark my answer is I need to put a closed dot, which means a closed is a solid shape as compared to an open shape. Open as in not shaded in. So what this means right here is that 21, it has to be 21 for this equation to be true. So there we've represented our solution, our answer. This is our solution. We represented it on a number line. And of course, this plays into something that's coming up. So let's look at this one. We have -7 times y equals 49. So if, oops, I'm still in the huge thing. So if you remember our tic-tac-toe, we have our plus throughout, minus, 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 and I need a negative times something that's going to give me a positive answer. So a negative times a positive will give me a negative. That's not going to work. But a negative times a negative will give me a positive. So whatever my y value is going to have to be negative. So what times 7 gives me 49? We know that it's 7. So we know that y must equal -7 for this to be a true problem. So again, we need to anchor with 0. I don't have a positive value, I just have a negative value, so I'm just going to come out here to -10. And it might help me to put -5 in there because you do need to be accurate in your estimation. So what we need to know is, remember, we go away, we keep getting smaller and smaller, so 0, -5, -10. -7 is not going to be exactly halfway, it's going to be toward -5 of halfway. So when I do that, I'm just going to put my dot right there. Okay? And so one of the things I forgot to do on the other one is we just want to go in and say what that point is. We want to say that that is -7. And we want to say that that is a positive 21. All right, so when it says represent the solution, what that solution is finding out what the variable means. On a number line, you just plot it like you know how. It needs to be closed, which means it's not open, it's closed. All right, ask questions if you have them.